Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking this massive topic of revolutions, the different types, the causes, the iconic leaders, and the big ideas that drive them.
Right, we've really gone in depth.
Yeah, but for this last part, I kind of want to get into something a bit more personal.
Okay.
What was it actually like to experience a revolution firsthand?
That's a great point. It's easy to get lost in the historical narratives and political analysis. But revolutions are ultimately about people, their hopes, fears, struggles, and how their lives are transformed by these massive events.
Exactly. It's one thing to read about revolutions in a textbook, but it's a whole other thing to imagine living through that kind of upheaval. The uncertainty, the sudden shifts in power, the fear, the hope everyday life turned upside down.
Right, it must have been incredibly disorienting.
Yeah, and the impact of a revolution, I imagine, varied greatly depending on who you were and where you stood in society.
Absolutely. For some, it was a time of liberation and the promise of a better future, while for others, it meant loss, displacement, even violence.
So we really need to look beyond those big, sweeping narratives and consider the individual experiences of people from all walks of life.
Those who actively participated in the revolution, those who simply tried to survive, those who benefited, and those who suffered.
Exactly. It's a reminder that revolutions are rarely simple black and white events.
They're messy?
They're messy, complex processes with a mix of winners and losers, and those caught in between.
And it's through those individual stories that we can really grasp the human drama of revolution.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure, during the Russian Revolution, there were countless stories of ordinary people, from factory workers in St. Petersburg to farmers in the countryside, whose lives were completely upended by the events unfolding around them. Some embraced the Bolshevik cause, seeing it as a path to a more just and equitable society. Others resisted, clinging to the old ways, fearing the chaos and violence that came with radical change.
It's like those historical novels or films that bring the past to life through the eyes of fictional characters. They help us connect with the human emotions, the dilemmas, the small everyday moments that make up a revolution.
Right, those personal stories also often challenge our assumptions about revolutions.
Yeah.
We might think of revolutionaries as these heroic figures, single-minded in their pursuit of freedom and justice.
Okay, yeah.
But in reality, they were just as complex and flawed as anyone else, with their own doubts, competing loyalties, and internal conflicts.
And those individual choices, those acts of courage, cowardice, or simply trying to survive had a ripple effect, shaping the course of the revolution and its aftermath.
Absolutely. One example of this is the role of women in revolutions.
Sure, yeah.
Women have often been at the forefront of revolutionary movements, playing key roles in organizing, mobilizing, and even fighting. But their contributions have often been overlooked or minimized in historical accounts.
Think about the women who marched on Versailles during the French Revolution, demanding bread and challenging the authority of King Louis VI.
Their actions demonstrated the power of collective action and helped push the revolution in a more radical direction.
And even when not directly participating in the fighting or political maneuvering, women often experience revolutions in unique and profound ways. They had to cope with the disruption of family life, shortages of food and other essential goods, and the constant fear of violence.
Right. Their stories reveal the ways in which revolutions impacted everyday life, far beyond the battlefield or the halls of power. They challenge us to consider the revolution from multiple perspectives, not just through the lens of male leaders or grand political ideologies.
It's fascinating how, by shifting our focus to the individual, we can gain a whole new understanding of these events.
It reminds us that history isn't just about dates and battles.
It's about people, their choices, and how they navigate these periods of extraordinary change.
And those human stories of resilience, adaptation, and the struggle for survival are just as important as the big political narratives. They provide a deeper, more nuanced understanding of the complexities of revolution.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into revolutions, what are some of the key takeaways we should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, revolutions are incredibly complex. They're driven by a mix of factors, social, economic, political, and ideological. And they unfold in unpredictable ways, with both intended and unintended consequences.
We've also seen that revolutions are about more than just changing leaders or systems. They're about the fundamental relationship between a society and its government, about who holds power and how that power is exercised.
Exactly, and they raise profound questions about the nature of freedom, equality, justice, and the role of violence in creating a better world.
And it's through engaging with these questions, through understanding the different perspectives and the complexities of these historical events, that we can learn from both the successes and failures of revolutions.
Right. And these lessons are not just relevant to the past. They can help us understand and navigate the challenges of change in our own time. After all, the human desire for a better world, for a more just and equitable society, is a timeless one. And that desire often expressed itself through demands for change, through challenges to the status quo, and sometimes even through revolutions.
So as you go about your day, think about the revolutions we've discussed. Which ones resonated with you the most? What stories or insights stood out? And what can we learn from these historical events that can help us navigate the complexities of change in our own world?
Keep those questions in mind and keep exploring. There's always more to discover, more stories to uncover, and more to learn about revolutions and the human capacity for both incredible hope and, unfortunately, incredible destruction.
That's it for our deep dive into revolutions. Thanks for joining us.